Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, as you probably guessed, I'm going to be showing you how I approach painting hot metal. And I'm going to be using the Lord Invoctus model, but specifically the Demon Juggernaut that he's riding. Now I want the Juggernaut to look like it's sort of emanating heat from within it. Now I know this isn't a novel idea, as various sort of creators have done something similar, but I thought it'd be cool to see how this effect can be achieved, and it can also be applied to various other things such as weapons or terrain, for example. So as always, prime the model black. I'm now going to start panel lining with white oil paint. Now if you don't know how to do this, you basically get a little bit of oil paint and thin it down massively with mineral spirits. When you load your brush, it should just flow into the recesses. Just don't try this with water because it won't work. Another benefit is that if you make a mistake, you can remove it just by using pure mineral spirits. Okay, now that all those panel lined areas have dried, and because it's oil paint, it will take a little bit longer for it to dry than say acrylic or ink. We're now going to move on to using the airbrush. I'm going to be using white ink through the airbrush and going over those areas that we've panel lined. The reason for this is that the areas we've panel lined are going to be a nice bold, thick white, but then with the airbrush it's going to produce like a diffused white over the top of it. Okay, so now that we've done white ink through the airbrush, it's time to start adding some colour. And still using the airbrush, I'm going to use Imperial Fist Contrast Paint by Citadel over those white areas, which is going to produce the effect of heat being emanated from those areas. As you can see, using white beforehand helps boost that saturation massively. So the next on our list is orange. I'll be using AK Interactive Orange ink for this. Now inks are great for this type of task because they're quite translucent and you can really build up the colour gradually. Just remember to not flood an area with ink, but let that section dry before going over it again. So as you can see, with these colours starting to build up, there's a real sense of heat starting to form, but we still need to amplify this, and we're going to do that by moving into reds. For this step, I mixed AK Beast Brown, which is a very warm brown, with AK Burnt Red, which is similar to Citadel's Corn Red, which is a 3:1 ratio. As you can see, I'm airbrushing it on the areas that I think should be cooler. Okay, so now this is going to be the last step where I use the airbrush, and I'm using it to emphasise those coldest areas. Now I went for a mix of AK Strong Dark Blue and AK Tenebrous Grey, which is a dark muted grey with an almost bluish undertone at a 1:1 ratio, as I find this contrasts with the warmer colours really well and helps produce that cold iron look. So with all those main parts done, what we've got left to do now really is the iconography and some of the sort of details like on the head and things like that, the trim. To do this, we're going to go back to the Beast Brown and Burnt Red mixture from before, and we're going to dry brush all over those raised areas, being careful not to get it onto the yellow and orange sections of the model. And finally, for the iconography and the finer details on the model, just like the airbrush, we're going to lightly dry brush the strong dark blue and tenebrous grey mix just to the very edges of those symbols, because we want to maintain that heat emanating from within. There you have it. Now you might be wondering, what about Lord Invoctus himself? I haven't included him in this tutorial because in my previous video I actually went into how I approach painting Lord Eater's armour and skin. So if you're interested in seeing how I approach painting him, I'll put a link in the video description below. Right, so before we get on to the reveal, I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone that purchased a book. I was really pleasantly surprised by how many of you actually went out and bought it, and I hope you guys are thoroughly enjoying it and finding it useful. And to the rest of you who like and subscribe, again, massive thank you to you all. It really helps and it's massively appreciated and doesn't go unnoticed. And don't forget, I now have a Patreon that is now live. If you guys are interested, please feel free to pop over and have a look. Again, I'll put a link to that in the description below. I hope you guys have all enjoyed this video, and again, you found it quite useful. And don't forget, this technique you can actually use on weapons and things as well. It's not just limited to massive sort of miniatures and large surfaces. You can actually use it on quite small surfaces. You just got to be really selective on where you're applying your highlights and things like that, and emphasising the contrast with the darker colours. Right, so that's enough of my waffling. If you don't do so already, please like and subscribe, as I mentioned before, it massively helps the channel. Yeah, so see you guys in the next one.